Welcome to today's video. In today's video, we will continue the Alternate Future of Europe series. And France seeing this growing threat of Germany and France, allies, I mean. One sec. You figure this out for the colors. What's going on? Oh yeah, I was at the wrong spot. So now we can figure the colors out. With France fearing this new pact, because they are fearing what it could mean, they form a pact with these two northern Italy states, Ukraine, these states, which is Baltica. They also make an alliance. Britain joins, and Ireland, or is a part of Britain, one or the other. But yeah, yes, it's Ireland. But with a problem erupting as the start to a war begins, which will later become known as the 5 Years' War. Instantly, after Ukraine joined, Baltica joined, was declared war on, and then the rest of the pact. At first, Germany was like, maybe they won't intervene. And then they did, so then Germany was like, okay, no longer am I able to stay neutral in this conflict. And then two states quickly join, wanting to seize lands. And Croatia joins. Not yet, but they will. First, Hungary joins. To form Romania again, Wallachia declares war on Moldavia, which came back. Yep, that did. Serbia joins the war as Hungary declared war on them. Now for the first fighting, with Poland and neighbors mostly ready for this. As Moldavia already made an invasion. And so, yeah. And out of the north, the Russians will come in. As this alternate future series has had Crimea all over the place. Though it starts unrealistically, but yeah. But it was realistic for the time, so yeah. As they managed to do this. In real life, they just stalemated after they got there. So basically, yeah. But yeah, that's not real life. And this is also not the real life Ukraine. It's way smaller. But nonetheless, it's still called Ukraine, as Ukraine has fallen quick. Will there be nations join and nations leave? Probably. As Germany's ready to invade France, the resistance efforts in Ukraine didn't work so well. And Germany holding a defensive with France, without any counter-offensives against it, with this state trying to make an offensive, but didn't go so well. With an offensive going well here, but not so much over here for the red team. With Croatia basically being in the most trouble, and Venice has fallen, but that's because it's small. And so on, and then it extends to the fall of Croatia, which has bad borders at this time. So as we can see, the front isn't going so well for the blue team at all. But France takes the initiative and continues south, invading here. But as we know, this is like year one of the conflict, probably, maybe even 6 months in. But with Naples taking the opportunity to seize lands. Why not? Free land, they say. As they quickly seize this. Which they basically just annex and leave established. 2 places leave the war, Naples, and with the fall of Ukraine having happened, well, Muscovy has just left the war. Because they see no point in continuing the war. Which, the advantage is still in their hands. With the Dnieper being the split. But yeah. But with the Baltic nations being like, No, they invade back. But they basically used most of their troops, so they're very low. But their people have high morale. Somehow. They're being Finland. But as we can tell, high morale might mean nothing. With Novgorod being a player in this war, with the war extending, as they become the purple team as they declare war on Finland. Why the purple team? Because they can. But this is different than the Winter War, as these soldiers are trained to fight in this area. But as we can tell, the first advantage might necessarily mean you're going to win. Because it all depends on how long the fight is, how long you're prepared to fight. If you're underestimate, with them getting the Finns pushed right back into Claria and even landing on the Kola Peninsula. But the only problem is a Finnish counteroffensive is made by the Finnish government. Well, not the government, by the Finnish military. With St. Petersburg, or Finnish Grad falling, maybe they called it, Finland makes its counteroffensive over here with most of its major cities. But due to that front unable to move, Finnish resistance moves down there and allows us to fall. Back to here, a peace treaty is sent where a minuscule amount of lands is gave over. Finland refuses this peace offering. But the problem was with that is that they're getting pushed back up here. They decide to go push this out. But the only problem is they're running out of resources to continue this fight, and they get pushed back. They realize it's not going to be as easy of a fight as the Winter War was. But they believe they can win. Worst case scenario, even lose land, but it's not a big deal. Oh, I used two different colors. Oops. And that falls, and all that's left is these lands, which Finland is unable to push back, because, yeah, they get pushed back. So Finland's in a bad position, meaning they need to negotiate now, or they'll be out of resources. Unfortunately, it didn't go as well as Finland was hoping, but let's see how the German offensive in the Baltica is going. With huge resistance being formed against this team, with the Novgorod moving into Estonia, as the Germans move up into Estonia. A separate treaty is signed here with Baltica, separate from the rest of the front, but nobody knows how this war will end. And now the two of Wallachia happening, and the fall of Wallachia. Which, expansionism is really a big deal at this point, because yeah. But the problem is, Serbia causes a few other nations to enter as they cause invasion, which they weren't supposed to do. But, as we can tell, this probably isn't going to end well either. With the Balkan front being opened up. With Novgorod declaring war on that nation. But they declare war, basically. So indirectly, this happened. Which this is like the test. This is like 2 years into the conflict, maybe 3. You know, it's going to be... But let's see. Does Novgorod have the advantage it thinks it does, or not? This war is a bit back and forth at first. As a huge offensive is made in, or so they think, a strong one too. But in this area, they're fully pushed back. But that doesn't really do anything because they start another offensive before they could even try to move troops. They have offensive made here. But unfortunately, they're slowly running out of resources. And while this nation does want land and is now thinking of joining the side of the people fighting on their views against expansionism, yet they're going to use it to expand. Kind of like the 7 Years' War, if you think of it. Well, the 7 Years' War was just fought in North America, Europe, India, I guess other places maybe. With them having reached a big chunk of this nation. With them actually seizing this area quickly. Novgorod having its troops destroyed by the time it got invaded. They're fully annexed. Which is crazy to think. And now Novgorod is wondering if they should join the war on which side. With this causing tensions. With an offensive being made by Bulgaria, meaning they're losing on the southern front. Which is a big deal, because Serbia gets the blame for this from its full team. With Hungary leaving the war while they have what they have, things sent to Muscovy, which has just reformed Russia, basically. Not yet, but will. Has just declared war on the German team, which is a big deal considering nobody expected this in Germany. So basically the Soviets pulled a prank. Instead of the Germans. With them crossing the Dnieper River down here. Poland has become in trouble, with Germany and France still stalemated. Same with Italy and Germany. With Russia trying to succeed in cutting them off, Poland makes a humongous counteroffensive, one of the best in this war. But Poland is unable to keep up. Their empire, yeah, they managed to kick them past the Dnieper, but yeah. Bulgaria continues its offensive in the Romania, in the Wallachia, offers Moldova to just leave the war and not lose any land, which they choose because they... With France starting an offensive on the German front, which breaks the German line. With France being strong. With Italy less divided, which is a good thing. As the Papal States were kicked out. But Germany makes a counter-offensive, but Serbia's too weak and not supplied enough by its allies to do much. This is where the Bosnian uprising begins. With Slovenia realizing the cost of this war is too much for their people, and they don't want to have to pay war reparations, so before that could be a possibility, they leave. Which Croatia just takes as an opportunity to declare their independence. Spain, or is that Iberia? I can't think for a minute. Yes, Iberia has just declared war. Norway and Sweden have just entered the war against them, and such on. With Poland managing to hold this front back, but another huge offensive is made, and Germany is unable to supply them or even help them, but they still manage to make a counter-offensive. But, as we can see, this war is becoming worse, and Serbia surrenders, despite not being lost yet. They just surrender because there's no point in fighting at this point. With Sweden and Norway making an offensive with Britain. Meaning Germany is now fighting on multiple fronts. 3, to be exact. Can they open another front? Yes, that's exactly what they do. The southern front has been reopened. But Germany manages to make a counter-offensive against Italy. And a counterattack against Germany. With the Venetian government being reestablished to be on their team, Poland gets a naval blockade and Russia lands here. And that's not looking good. Czechia is just like, oh, I can get my lands back that I got stole by Germany. And now a new front has opened. So now they're fighting on a bunch. Can they hold this war? Doubtfully. As this is the 3-year mark of this conflict. Poland started it. So Poland's probably going to get worse repercussions. With the Polish military under the leadership of one of the generals, manages to make a huge counteroffensive all the way to the Dnieper River. But the problem is with this is that it's not going to be able to hold. As this was like the last ditch attempt to get Russia out and take Crimea to stop the war against Muscovy. But it failed. With Germany at this point unable to make counteroffensives because they're having mass desertion of their militaries, allowing this. Plus, somehow aid is getting there because their air defenses are getting weak at this point. But they keep fighting, along with Poland. Despite being able to surrender, they won't. With a small Polish nation most likely going to be established. The re-establishment of Russian claims. With this area, Germany surrendering. But Poland will never surrender, their government has made a statement saying. But it's Poland. How's this even fair? Poland. Why do they need to be beat up all the time? I don't know. Do you? I guess that's how the world works. Now let's see what the treaty did after the 5 years war, as 5 years of fighting has just completed. This was 5 years long. 3 years when the fall started. It took 2 years for them to fall, really. Or it would have been, it was either 4 or 5 years. It was just 5 years, so they got the name of 5 Years' War. And a peace treaty has to be signed, of course. So Russia expanded further. Poland was created. We have Prussia back. North Germany, which some people call Berlin or Brandenburg. Brandenburg used to be a state, and it was located here, and it's big. Saxony, Hessen, or Rhine, whatever you want to call it. Hessen-Rhine, let's say. Bavaria, Belgium, Luxembourg, the Netherlands. Denmark gained lands with a weird, because they fought on the opposite team, but then again, Austria got lands in World War II after being stripped away of lands, so yeah. Kind of isn't unrealistic. Like, after 5 years of fighting, this Europe's probably devastated. Specifically in this area, specifically France, Germany, because there's probably a lot of fighting going on there. But Turkey managed to stay out. Siberia is probably going to fall under Russian occupation soon. Because look at Russia now. It's back. So now to go west, they say. And that's all for today's video. Please like and subscribe. That's all for today's video, guys. Wild Mapper out. Bye, guys. But not until you subscribe. I'm not gone. Bye.